Hello, people. Welcome to the lecture series of governance. And this is the third lecture in series. And today we will be seeing the concept of good governance. So let's take a quick recap on what was governance. It was basically the process by which decisions are made and they are implemented. The process by which decisions or public policies are made and the decisions are implemented. Governance can be anything. It could be the same thing can apply to corporate governance, international governance, national governance, or local governance. How the public policies are formulated, how they are implemented, and how the grievance arising out of them are redressed. All right, so the governance existed since the inception of civilization. From the inception of the civilization, there was the process of governance. It is not a new thing. All right, each and every civilization, kingdoms want their citizens to be satisfied, so they constantly worked in order to maintain the governance. And according to World Bank, what was the definition? Manner in which the power is exercised. Manner in which power is exercised in managing the social and economic resources of country. All right, so what is the manner? Either king can coerce the citizen, or he can follow the carrot and stick policy, or he could be very benevolent, or he could be just like God. As just like Kautilya, he said king is a march of God on earth. Machiavelli said that one has to govern its citizen in such a manner that he should be consistently striking terror in the mind of the people. All right, so there was no common consensus how to maintain the governance and what is the state. We have already dealt with it. So what was governance? It is here depicted in a short diagram. Let's say G is governance. All right, G is our governance. So governance is when government, market, and civil society. Market brought its expertise. All right, market brought it expertise, knowledge, practices, best practices, operating procedure, technology. ये सारी चीज़ें market has brought with itself technology, all right, which were being helpful in governing. And what is governing? What is governance? Each and every activity that is done by state, whatever state does, is called governance. Whether it is framing of the law and order, public policy, rules and regulation, whether it is effective economic delivery of services, or it is redressal of the grievances, or it is developmental work, or it is social justice. All right, so it was all governance. Now good governance is as simple as the concept of governance. If you have understand what government does, so this is the diagram, as we have already dealt with it कि government क्या कर रही थी, what was the role of government. ये सारे रोल थे government के. All right, उसको कैसे कर रही थी? Legislature, executive, judiciary के through. Finally government realized that we are ineffective and inefficient, and let's involve market plus civil society, their practices, देयर ईथोस, यानी इनके प्रैक्टिसेस. अभी जो पीछे डायग्राम बनाया सेम वही बात. प्रैक्टिसेस सॉरी, ईथोस, कल्चर, वर्क कल्चर. ऑल राइट, यानी कैसे काम कर रहा है, इसमें कोई हायरार्की वाला झंझट नहीं है. नो डिटेल्ड प्रोसीजर ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन. डिटेल्ड प्रोसीजर ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन का कोई झंझट नहीं है. डिटेल्ड प्रोसीजर ऑफ documentation, no such things. So the things can be done very easily. So government said that while in framing order, formulation of public policy, rules and regulation, we should learn from civil society, market, that how they are doing their job very easily. Okay, I'm so sorry for this very gibberish handwriting, because my pen is not working properly. All right, so let's see what is the concept of good governance. Nothing new. Just remember these 6 basic points, plus add some more. Rule of law, consensus oriented, कंसेंसस, सबका कंसेंसस लेना, ऑल राइट, कंसेंसस ओरिएंटेड, सबकी सहमति लेके काम करना. सो लेट्स सी व्हाट इज द कंसेप्ट ऑफ गवर्नेंस, सॉरी गुड गवर्नेंस. सो गुड गवर्नेंस इज एक्चुअली the same thing what government was doing, including market and civil society, plus adding these 8 major characteristics. What are these characteristics? Participation, consensus oriented, accountability, transparency, responsiveness, effective and efficient, equitable, rule of law, etc. So what does it mean? It means that in functioning of legislature, let us add all these points. Then what would happen? Concept of good governance would prevail. Similarly, in the functioning of executive, let us add these 4 points. Means that executive should act in such a manner, should perform its duty in such a manner that it should be predictable. All right, the duty performed should be participatory. It should not be a doctor dictated approach just like a pope, or trickle down approach that India followed during the time of independence, ki central government had said that you have to do these things and everybody is doing. No, now there is participation from each and every unit of government, that is central, state, local, plus public participation. All right, there is public participation also. And finally, public participation and participation of civil society organization, plus participation of market, that is private companies. Similarly, in functioning of legislature, executive, judiciary also क्या करना है, यही सारा ऐड कर देना है. Accountability, so legislature or executive or judiciary, all of them should be accountable for their act. They should function in a transparent manner. They have to shed their earlier role of that they were playing in secrecy. पहले सारा काम कैसे हो रहा था? It was happening in secrecy, mysticism. All right, this was considered as the colonial hangover, that one has to function in secrecy and mysticism. But now the people demanded transparency. The greatest example of transparency is RTI, Right to Information Act, that we will exclusively deal with when we will talk about transparency. Responsiveness, government should be responsive towards the genuine needs of the citizens. Means it should respond. If I ask a question, a student respond, student give me answer. Similarly, if citizen ask something from the state, all right, or government or state had to respond to the genuine and democratic needs of the citizen. This is responsiveness. And representativeness, either it is direct or indirect. Representative matlab the basic needs of the society are represented in government, each and every section of the society. Representative means that each and every section, whether it is minority, all right, whether it is SC, ST, whatsoever, each and every section of the society having representation in public policy, implementation, public policy formulation, etc. So when all these elements are attached, when these 6 elements PPATRR, predictability, participation, accountability, transparency, responsiveness, all of them are added to each and every single entity of governance. Let's turn the page. See, when each and every element of PPATRR, predictability, participation, accountability, transparency, responsiveness and representativeness are added to each and every element that is responsible for governance. Who are responsible for governance? Government is, market is, civil society is. Yani civil society should function in a participative manner. It should function in such a way that it is very much transparent. All right, it should function in such a way that it is accountable. So these are the thing that makes a government or governance good. तभी governance कैसी बनेगी? Good. All right, although governance is a value loaded term, it is by default a value loaded term, but due to certain prevalence like nepotism was prevailing. We will deal with these things in our next lecture. Nepotism, corruption, cronyism, etc. These were the things which led to the prevalence of the concept of good governance, that made government or governance, which include government, market, and civil society, to function in an open manner. All right, to function in transparent manner, transparent manner, to function in such a way that they are accountable. I am so sorry for my pen. All right, so this makes the entire concept of good governance. All right, see here, efficient and effective service delivery mechanism. जो service delivery mechanism है, all right, it should also be predictable. Means that when I am going to RTO to get my driving license, it should be very much predictable that what documents are required, what documents are required to get DL, driving license. Similarly, what documents are required to get passport. So governance is becoming predictable. Nobody would harass me at that time to tell you have to get these documents. Similarly, it should be participatory, it should be accountable, it should be transparent, responsiveness and representativeness. Transparent means that functioning is very much transparent. There should be a document known as citizen charter. We will be dealing with it in a coming lecture. एक citizen charter होगा with every department, which would tell what is the cost of the service. अगर passport बनवाना है तो what is the cost of service, what are the document required, in how many days, yani in how much time will this service would be available to me. And if there is a grievance, if there is grievance arising out of it, then what is the redressal mechanism. All right, everything is told by citizen charter. So these things, when at each level, at each and every level, at market, at government, at market, at civil society, at framework of law and order, at effective service delivery mechanism, at grievance redressal mechanism, at robustness of institution, that is civil services and democracy, in sub element पे, when we have added predictability, participation, accountability, transparency, responsiveness, representativeness, along with various other elements like rule of law, consensus oriented, etc. When we have added these things to each and every element, the entire gamut of governance is now converted to what is known as good governance, and it makes the life of the people very easy. So the last thing to say why there was need of good governance, probably we would take up this series or this lecture in upcoming classes, but let's take a quick viewpoint, because there was prevalence of corruption, meaning that now government has although included market and civil society, बुला तो लिया इनको भी market plus civil society, but still there is a scope of corruption. Example, let's say government has floated a tender for making highway बनाने के लिए government has floated a tender, and this highway would be built on public private partnership, but the government officer is not functioning in secret manner, is not functioning in transparent manner. All right, so the information of public private partnership highway would not be available to each and every member, but only to the favorite, or someone from his own family, or someone who is offering good money to the officer would reach. All right, so they will apply for the tender, and tender for the highway would pass to that that private company. So it would not lead to what was intended. The intention was, by inclusion of private company, we want to take its technical superiority, यानी उसके पास क्या होगा, technical superiority होगी, competition आएगा. All right, competition. What would happen after competition? Competition would lead to reduction in price of commodities. All right, this pen is not working. Reduction in prices, price कम हो जाएंगे. Example, earlier it was only BSNL, हम लोग बहुत पैसा दे रहे थे उसका इंटरनेट सर्विस लेने के लिए. जब से कंपटीशन आ गया, हमने प्राइवेटाइज कर दिया. कंपटीशन आया, जियो, Hutch, etc., Airtel. So they have brought competition, and through competition the prices are reduced. So the public service has become more affordable. All right. So these are the thing that we intended to, so intended in the process of governance, so that क्या होगा, easy life of the people would be easy. But it did not happen. Instead, corruption, nepotism, favoritism, cronyism, red tapeism, rule of thumb. Rule of thumb means lack of objectivity. Lack of objectivity, it itself means that there is no standard operating procedure. जब जिसका मन कर रहा है वो अपना रूल बना रहा है और उस हिसाब से लोगों के साथ डीलिंग हो रही है. ऑल राइट, नो स्पेसिफिक स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर, सीक्रेसी, asymmetry of information, lack of objectivity, unpredictable behavior of the officers, all right, lack of accountability and lack of responsiveness, plus many other things. The concept of good governance or the literature of good governance is so vast that it cannot be summed up in these few 12 points. All right, so this was the basic thing about good governance. We would be dealing with the concept of good governance in our upcoming lecture because it is a very vast concept, and one by one we will take each and every कंसेप्ट ऑफ प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी, पार्टिसिपेशन, अकाउंटेबिलिटी, ये सारे के सारे एक एक करके वी विल डील विद ईच एंड एवरी एलिमेंट. दे आर बाय देमसेल्फ द bigger concept. All right, so for today let's sum up our lecture over here. Thank you class.